Hello, welcome to Financial Insider Weekly. I'm your host, Michael Gray, CPA. My guest today is Janice Carney, and Janice is an attorney with her own law practice called Carney Elder Law in Saratoga, California. She received her JD or law degree from the University of Santa Clara Law School in 1990, and Janice has been practicing law independently for over 25 years. She has been a certified specialist in estate planning, trust, and probate law by the State Bar of California Board of Legal Specialization since 1995. In 2005, Janice became the first certified elder law attorney in Santa Clara County through the National Elder Law Foundation, and is only the 8th attorney in California to be recognized as a specialist in elder law by the State Bar of California Board of Legal Specialization. In 2009, Janice became one of the first accredited attorneys by the Veterans Administration in this area. This interview is the first of a three-part series that we're calling the Elder Care Journey. We are discussing the evolution of care today, and just be aware that Janice is a California attorney and I am a California CPA, and some of the rules that we're discussing vary from state to state. This is only an introduction to an area that you should discuss with your own attorney. Janice, thanks for joining me.
You're so welcome, Mike.
Okay. Now, how has the face of caring for elders changed over the last few decades?
Well, we all know that in our parents' and grandparents' generation, families were very much interdependent on each other. The seniors cared for and lived with younger generations, and the younger generations cared for the seniors. That's not the way it is today. Family dynamics have changed. We now rarely have someone who is an at-home spouse, an at-home mom or such, who caring for the children. That most families, couples, have two-income families, and the women are out in the workforce having their own careers.
Right.
So there's not someone at home to care for seniors. Furthermore, seniors today don't want to be codependent on their younger generations. They want to be independent. They want to stay healthy and vigorous way longer into their lifetime. Seniors are living longer than ever. The statistics show that in just the year 2000, there were about 34 million seniors. Those are adults over age 65 in America. And by the year 2050, that number will close to triple.
Wow,
so it's a huge number of increase. The face of what caring for seniors looks like, how it's done, is very different today. The healthcare system has also changed. There are a number of geriatricians out there that specialize in care for seniors, and over the years I've learned that the care for seniors is very different. That seniors, as you age, your chemistry in your body changes, and the same drugs that might have helped you in a certain way when you were 50 might in fact poison you at age 85. So things are changing. So you need to have the right kind of medical care and the focus on where you're going to be living. There are also, seniors want to transition. They aren't going to accept going into a higher level of care than they absolutely need. So they're going to transition from what I call independent living, that might be at home, to some assistance, to greater assistance, and finally maybe into skilled nursing. Yeah.
Okay. So I think part of it, we were talking earlier, that people they see themselves differently at different ages these days. So, my wife was so proud of how she looked when she was 45. But anyway, so maybe thinking of something more like a 35-year-old woman might have thought of themselves 30 years ago. And, a 65-year-old, for the most part, looks at themselves as being fairly vital. And so, maybe thinking of themselves that I'm going to throw out an age, maybe age 50, not so long ago, it might have looked at themselves that way. And so we don't think of ourselves, really as seniors when we're 65, even though we are.
Well,
But
and Michael, that's so true. The senior that's turning 65 feels like they're maybe 50. And people are looking younger too. I had a client yesterday that I was shocked to find out he's 93 years old.
Wow.
He didn't look over 80.
Wow.
And I see a lot of seniors, so I have a lot of comparisons to
Yeah.
make. But people are staying younger longer.
Yeah. Okay. And I think it has something to do with mindset. We have a youth-oriented culture, and especially, they say that, again, the baby boomers that are going to fight older age to the end, right?
That's true.
Well, what are the various stages of care now?
So as I indicated, the first level of care is what, and I'm talking about seniors. So people who are 65 and older is where I'm calling a senior. So someone who is vigorous and healthy is going to be living independently. They might be in their own home that they've lived in for decades, and they might move to a senior activity center, someplace that limits its population to only seniors, usually age 55 and up. There are a number of them in our area and all across America. Then they can also move to what we call an independent living center, so where the meals are made for them, and they have, I and a friend of mine call it the done for you community.
Okay.
Everything's done for you.
Okay.
So you just,
oh, handy.
there's activities of all sorts to go on, trips you can go on, and you can live independently there as much as you want and live very, very autonomously. But yet with all the creature comforts when you want them. So that's sort of the first level, and people want to stay at that level as long as they can. Then an early declining senior is going to need some assistance. In the past, and I would say as short ago as 10 years, there was a very discrete division between the independent living communities and what we're going to call this assisted living, and of course the skilled nursing. And an assisted living, you moved in and you needed quite a bit of assistance. And there were people who were in independent living who just needed a little bit of help. But the independent living, at least in California, is not a licensed caregiver. And they're not supposed to be giving any kind of assistance. And so what has evolved and what is now happening is this assisted living community it has sort of a scale. So you can move into assisted living when you need almost no assistance, maybe just someone who needs to monitor medications. And then as you need more and more care, they provide more and more care to you. Usually there's a base rent, and then you pay for the level of care. And it may be from level 1 to level 6. And so the price you pay for it is quite representative to the level of care. One of the care facilities that is in our area, and actually they're planning to build another one really close to my office building. It's all assisted living, but they're going to have 3 different units. And one is the memory care, one is the very independent in assisted living, and then the other that is sort of in between. So that looks like where the majority of care is going to be. 25% 5 years ago plus, when I started practicing, there was no such thing as an assisted living facility. It didn't exist. People went from their home, they had some kind of medical event, they went into a nursing home. Hopefully they were rehabbed enough, and then they were sent back home again. The people who truly couldn't go back home stayed in long-term care in the nursing home or the skilled nursing facility. That's still where people go for rehab, but less and less people are staying there because now they have this interim level. And so they're leaving the nursing home, they're going back to assisted living. And in fact, the assisted living facilities, with exceptions in their licensing, can get waivers in their licensing to keep someone on hospice actually to the end of someone's life. It depends on their staffing and how many hospice waivers they can get. But someone who is looking at where am I going to go for the rest of my life should be looking at one of these assisted living communities that can adjust to the level of care they need and can in fact have a hospice waiver to keep them. And that's where people are going. Now, of course, people who have a great grave level of medical care needed may have to be in skilled nursing. But mostly skilled nursing homes now want to focus mostly on rehab and getting people from the hospital into there, getting them rehabbed, and then sending them back out to wherever they should be in the community.
Okay. So how do seniors pay for these various levels of care along the journey?
That is what a lot of people come to me about. Clearly, you can pay out of your own pocket, your private savings. Sometimes I say, you might, if you have that son who earned or hit the jackpot with Google, you might pay out of his pocket. But generally, you're paying out of your own pocket for at-home care and assisted living. The skilled nursing, if you have, or if you're financially needy, in the skilled nursing level of care, Medi-Cal, or the federal Medicaid program if you're outside of California, can come in and pay for your care at skilled nursing level.
So that's sort of the extreme, though, we said, right? So, where you really do need fairly heavy medical care.
Right. Or you just need a lot of care that cannot be provided anywhere else. Sometimes people get into a skilled level of care and they have run out of money and they have no money to pay for care at home or in an assisted living kind of community, and they're sort of stuck and they have to go on Medi-Cal, and the nursing homes, the skilled nursing homes, end up having to keep them for long-term care. Nursing homes don't really want to keep them. Most people don't want to be there on Medi-Cal, but that seems to be the only option if you have truly run out of money. I like people to think about the fact that they need to plan for this. Some of the biggest expenses that we plan for in our lifetime might have been our kids' college education. That might be someone is planning today for $100,000 to $200,000 for their kids. As a CPA, you probably counsel people on, putting money away. Well, think about this. Your long-term care might cost $500,000. Yeah. And people aren't planning for it. So I want to send a message to seniors out there who still have the ability to put aside some of their savings, some of what they call their retirement savings, into a pot for their long-term care, and figure that they need to live on the rest of it, and that this is set aside so that the money will be there so that they have options. The home care and assisted, for the most part, does not have any ability to get Medi-Cal benefits to pay for those. Now, there are a couple of new programs under Medi-Cal that if you need the level of care of skilled nursing, so you need a lot of care, then you might be able to get some assistance through Medi-Cal for assisted living or at-home care. But those programs are new in California. They're not very developed. There are very few assisted living facilities that will take the Medi-Cal money. So I don't want people to think that that's going to be readily available to them. And it's certainly not available to people when they're not in need of that higher level of care. So you have to be thinking of how are you going to pay for it. Now, if you've got another spouse at home or you're living at home and you need caregivers, you might tap into your home. I'm calling the home, Michael, the golden egg that we've all made.
The piggy bank, right?
And so you might consider a reverse mortgage. In the past, I poo-pooed reverse mortgages. They've got a very bad reputation among most Americans. But today's reverse mortgage is highly regulated by the government. You can get the Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae guaranteed loans. You can get some jumbo loans through banks, and they have reasonable rates, and they're a good option for a senior who wants to stay home. If you're in assisted living, of course, you can't have a reverse mortgage on your home that may not be where you're living, unless you have a well spouse who's still in the home.
Right.
So
it has to be a residence, for you or your spouse.
That's right.
Yeah.
There is long-term care insurance, but long-term care insurance is also changing. The government would love for us all to have long-term care insurance so we don't go on any public benefits. But long-term care insurance, the traditional long-term care insurance, has been changing radically. 20 years ago, there were probably over 150 companies that offered traditional long-term care insurance. Today, there's under 5. John Hancock just announced a few weeks ago that they're no longer going to be in the business of offering long-term care policies to individual seniors. Now, they still do offer some group policies, but not on individuals, and they're going to get less and less. And this has been caused a number of reasons, but most people point to the fact that the insurance companies grossly underestimated how long seniors would live, how much care would cost, and how few people would actually get it. Only 10% of Americans over 65 have bought traditional long-term care insurance. The traditional long-term care insurance is based on what I call a medical chassis. So it's similar to our health insurance. You basically are guaranteed coverage for a year. It's priced such that, the prices, like our health insurance, can go up. However, long-term care insurance companies have to go and get permission from the Commissioner of Insurance to go up on the cost. But they have been going up on the prices of the premiums. Some companies have tripled. It's not unusual for them to have gone up 60 or 80% in other policies. So the people who have these policies are feeling very squeezed, that they're going up and up and up. So what happens when things go up in price with insurance?
Well, some people are going to be dropping out.
Yes, and who drops out?
The most sick people.
No, it's the opposite.
Oh, it's the healthiest.
The people who don't need it.
Oh, they call it negative
out.
selection. They call it negative selection.
Right, so it's the people who are sick who said, well, I've got to keep this.
I've got to have it,
I've got to have it. But so the pool of people having traditional long-term care insurance is getting sicker and sicker, which means that costs are going up for the insurance company, which means that they're going to go to the insurance commissioner and get increases. I predict that within 5 to 10 years, there won't be any new traditional long-term care insurance policies offered out there. What's replacing it is a different model for long-term care insurance. It's what we call an asset-based insurance policy. And that's a policy that has a life insurance or an annuity as its basis. It's based on a contract, so it can't go up on your premiums. It's contractually guaranteed, and it has a long-term care rider. So if you want to use it for long-term care, you use the money for long-term care instead of the life insurance or the annuity.
So it's sort of like cash value life insurance.
Right. So if you don't need it for long-term care, it then goes on to your family as life insurance. And some of these products are very, very good at providing a long-term care benefit instead of the life insurance. So that might be where people want to look at investing some of that money that they've saved for retirement, and they think, okay, that'll be the money that they use for long-term care. They can put it in these, and they don't have to feel like if they don't use it, they'll lose it. Because in fact, it will pass on to their kids if they never use it for long-term care. The sort of the corollary to this is people are afraid that, well, the insurance companies won't pay for the care when they need it. Well, if the insurance company's already on the hook for the money, they're going to pay it out to the kids anyway. Then it's not like health insurance where if I don't give this care, I'll save the money. It'll stay in the insurance company's pocket. It's going to get paid out. So there's a lot less resistance in paying out the money for your long-term care with these kind of products.
Interesting. Okay, well, how about the public benefit alternative?
Public benefits. So public benefits, I mentioned Medi-Cal. And Medi-Cal does pay for that skilled nursing subject to a copayment if you have a need for that level of care and are financially needy. To qualify for it, in essence, you're going to have to reduce your countable assets down to about $2,000. Now, if there's a well spouse, if it's a married couple and there's a well spouse, that well spouse can have another close to $118,000 in countable assets. If the well spouse living expenses exceed the amount of income that she or he has coming in, then you may be able to, an attorney may be able to go to court and get that number, that 118,000, increased to protect more of the assets, more of the savings for the at-home spouse. The at-home spouse also is, in essence, allowed a certain amount of income. The at-home spouse keeps all of his or her own income, but if his or her own income is under a certain level, which today is just at $30,000. If they're, $3,000, $3,000 a month. That $30,000 is a way.
Nice, wouldn't it?
Well, that would be, but $3,000 a month. If it's under about that, then they get to keep sort of like spousal support from the ill spouse's income. Again, these numbers can be adjusted by court orders if the facts support it, and then they can keep more. We have
about 2.5 minutes left, so just to let you know.
I've had quite a bit of increases in the past in various cases. The other public benefit I want to mention very quickly is the VA pension with aid and attendance. The VA pension requires the individual to, well, you have to be either a veteran or the surviving spouse of a veteran who has passed away. And the veteran had to have served at least one day during a declared wartime period. They also have to be honorably, or at least not dishonorably discharged, and they also have to be financially needy. The VA benefits and the eligibility issues are about to change. We expect that maybe in the spring or summer of this coming year, of 2017, that these will be changing. But those can still provide anywhere from $1,100 to $2,100 a month of additional income to the veteran or the spouse for care.
Okay. So I think we're going to maybe talk a little bit more in detail on some of these a little later in one of the later interviews. So I think we can leave it for that to some degree. Although I guess one question is, when was the last declared war that we had?
We're still in a wartime period.
Oh, we are? Okay.
We're still in the Gulf War, which started in about 1990, and Congress has not declared an end to this wartime period.
Okay, so then the people who are overseas now involved in those conflicts, they can still get coverage under this.
Under this.
Yeah.
So it's basically World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and then the Gulf War.
Okay. So we're really about out of time, I think. You maybe have a final thought related to this and wrap this up?
So I want to emphasize that this continuum of care from the vigorous senior through their medical care and even to their death is what people in the second half of life need to be focused on. That it's not just one thing, and that eventually at the end of their life they'll go and they figure they'll be in a nursing home. That's not the picture of care today. The picture is a continuum over a lifetime. It might be 20 years that they change.
All right. Thank you, Janice.
You're welcome.
All out of time, folks. See you next time on Financial Insider Weekly.